Don't Worry Darling is peak white feminism.
Don't Worry Darling, a stylish, massively underwhelming misfire.
Don't Worry Darling has a black martyr trope problem.
A stylish sophomore slump of cinema, Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry Darling.
The gendered violence of Don't Worry Darling lacks a point.
Shallow, beautiful, and underwhelming.
Spit, spit, and spit.
Disappointing, well shot, Harry Styles.
I couldn't watch with my mom.
Don't Worry Darling, the highly anticipated and headline-making second directorial venture from accomplished American actress and director Olivia Wilde, is a suspense-filled sci-fi thriller that has served as a divisive center of media attention since its inception.
With a star-studded A-list celebrity cast featuring Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, Gemma Chan, and director Olivia Wilde herself, this film dominated pop culture, both in its long and scandal-filled press promotion leading up to its release and the subsequent polarizing public reaction to its controversial themes, ambiguous ending, and masterful cinematography.
The film explores the life of Alice, portrayed by Florence Pugh, as she becomes increasingly aware of the fabricated nature of the cultish experimental community called Victory, where she resides with her husband Jack, who is portrayed by Harry Styles.
The Victory Project, spearheaded by Frank, cast as Chris Pine, is a seemingly idyllic desert paradise that promotes the return to antiquated values and echoes the suffocating of 1950s model of gendered societal oppression.
The community caters to the conventional gender roles of man as a provider with upward mobility who is the agent of positive change in the world, while the housewife figures cooks, cleans, and supports his endeavors.
Ultimately, Alice discovers that Victory is a picture-perfect reality that Jack has unconsensually entered them into, while their real bodies remain dormant in the outside world.
She successfully escapes, despite Jack, Frank, and other husbands' efforts to keep her compliant and unquestioning within the simulation. In an interview with Elle following the film's release, Wilde examines her positionality as director and her ambitions to create a film that complicates the reductive woman good, man bad narrative, and her intention to non-judgmentally prompt female viewers to recognize their own participation in the system that objectifies them.
Spoilers, but I think all of the women who made this film, we talked a lot about complicity and our role within the patriarchal system, and this is something that we're all very much involved in. I didn't have any interest in oversimplifying this as a feminist parable. I wanted it to be provocative and allow us to all really take a good look at our participation in the society that we benefit from.
Don't Worry Darling is marketed as a highly stylized critique of toxic masculinity and a topical commentary on the dangers of conformity and the idealization of the American dream. In an attempt to further combat the societally ingrained objectification of women both on and off the screen, Wilde incorporates multiple notoriously theatrical sex scenes between Pugh and Styles. Instead of adhering to the traditional Hollywood paradigm of male-centered scopophilic intercourse between male and female characters, Wilde claims that she's interested in, quote, acknowledging female pleasure that doesn't come from penetration, end quote, and demonstrating how sex is used as a tool of distraction in both Victory and the real life.
Absolutely. We thought a lot about the generations of women that came before ours, but unfortunately also the generation of women that we are in right now, in terms of body autonomy. It was a huge part of why we wanted to tell the story.
When asked to unpack her, quote, revolutionary approach to sex scenes in an interview with Variety, Wilde quips how, quote, men don't come in this movie, only women here, end quote, and affirming that her inspiration for representing and celebrating non-procreative forms of sex stems from queer cinema. However, these seemingly constructive and empowering motives behind the open portrayals of intimacy are overshadowed by the immediate public fascination on the gratuitous performance rather than the underlying counter-messaging behind it.
And are you willing to destroy the system that serves you?
Don't Worry Darling is white feminism at its best. At every turn, it falls short of accomplishing Olivia Wilde's goals within the film, as the feminism of the film leaves women of color out of the conversation completely. The film's attempt at feminism falls short in another manner as well. It takes on a very basic approach to feminism, where women are simply working to enter the workforce and experience career fulfillment. This is actually described as the most elementary feminist cartoon take on male oppression that one could make by a critic that we'll be talking about later. The cartoon take on male oppression, as stated above, is further explored through a Refinery 29 article by Hanaya Angus when she describes the film as the, quote, white woman's Get Out. Get Out is a movie by Jordan Peele, and this is her description of such. Angus describes Wilde as having a shallow view of the manosphere, explaining how the film fails to dive appropriately into any of the points it is trying to actually make about feminism. Angus even goes as far as to expose how Wilde's intent to make the film about female pleasure is immediately destroyed when the sex scenes are all actually scenes of assault, as shown above, as a result of Alice's lack of consent to even be in the simulation at all.
And yes, I mean, we want women to feel that they are being heard, and we want people to feel that this is a movie that is of our times, and to feel inspired by a heroine like Alice.
Olivia Wilde's lack of attempt to believe victims and keep the woman on her set safe when she actually did not fire Shia LaBeouf, which we'll get into in a moment, says more about her feminism than anything else.
I am aware that many of the ways I approach a set are based on what I had always dreamed someone would do for me. Allowing for more rehearsal time, understanding what a closed set really means for intimate scenes, bringing actors into the screenwriting process, welcoming all ideas from every crew member, creating an equal playing field.
Alrighty, so one of the ways in which Wilde failed to create a feminist film occurred behind the scenes rather than on screen. Before Harry Styles took the role as Jack, Alice's husband, the role was originally supposed to be played by Shia LaBeouf. During the summer of 2022, after LaBeouf's former girlfriend, FKA Twigs, among other girlfriends as well, came out against him with extensive allegations of abuse and a lawsuit, it was announced that LaBeouf would no longer be part of the Don't Worry Darling cast. When this announcement was made, according to Wilde, she had fired LaBeouf with the intent of keeping the production a safe space for everyone, as described in multiple videos. Eventually, LaBeouf sent both emails, messages, and a video sent to him by Wilde to Variety.
Shia. I feel like I'm not ready to give up on this yet, and I too am heartbroken, and I want to figure be a bit of a wake-up call for Miss Flo, and I want to know if you're open to giving this a shot with me, with us. If she really commits, if she really puts her mind and heart into it at this point, and if you guys can make peace, and I respect your point of view, I respect hers, but if you guys can do it, what do you think? Is there hope? Is there hope? You let me know.
Disputing the claim that he was fired from the set and alleging that he actually quit. The video went viral immediately, as it contains Wilde apologizing that it didn't work out and painting a much different picture than what she had claimed. In the video, essentially, she asks LaBeouf to consider coming back on his set, and she's apologizing that the whole deal with them didn't work out and that she hopes to work with them on future projects. It's a very apologetic video, and it really does not speak well to what she was trying to describe when she said that she fired him. Additionally, she refers to Florence Pugh in this video as, quote, Miss Flo in a derogatory manner, and this moment, among others, tainted the film's reception before it had even been released.
Critics were particularly vocal about the treatment of Margaret, the only black woman with a substantial role. Played by Kiki Lane, Margaret is sidelined early on, her tragic death reduced to a mere plot device.
One of the first things I say to my entire production before shooting is, no one here is more important than anyone else. It comes from my experience as an actor, recognizing that certain people on set really believed in this really unfair social hierarchy.
One of the most critical issues of Don't Worry Darling is the erasure of racial diversity. The original screenplay by Carrie and Shane Van Dyke included diverse characters reflecting broader societal structures. But Olivia Wilde's adaptation erased much of this, leaving a predominantly white narrative. As critic Randy Jones put it, tropes such as the token black martyr would be a thing of the past. Lo and behold, Don't Worry Darling obviously reinforces that latter trope for the sake of kicking off the white lead's road to freedom. Kiki Lane revealed on social media that much of her work, along with co-star Ariel Stachels, was cut from the final edit. This sparked widespread criticism, with audiences and scholars calling out the systemic erasure of black characters in Hollywood. Fred Moten reflected on this trend, saying, in a sense, this media representation of erasure further compounds the historical and intellectual erasure that happens all the time. Directed at black women and their struggles for racial and gender equality, Margaret's story had the potential to add depth to the film's themes of control and liberation. Instead, her silencing highlighted a larger issue in Hollywood, where black voices and stories are often marginalized in service of white narratives. As audiences, we have the power to push for better representation, because when we erase diversity, we erase the chance for art to truly reflect the world we live in. In the end, Don't Worry Darling might be remembered less for the movie itself and more for the circus around it. Spitgate was the headline grabber, showing how our obsession with celebrity drama often outshines the art. Whether you believe it happened or not, Spitgate is a perfect example of how we consume celebrity culture today. In this digital age, the line between reality and spectacle is blurrier than ever.
And as for all the endless tabloid gossip and all the noise out there, I mean, the internet feeds itself. I don't feel the need to contribute. I think it's sufficiently well nourished.
In the world of modern celebrity culture, there's nothing like a scandal to grab attention. And in 2022 at the Venice Film Festival, one unexpected moment took over the internet. Did Harry Styles actually spit on Chris Pine? The incident, now known as Spitgate, exploded online. A blurry video seemed to show Harry Styles spitting on Chris Pine while taking his seat at the premiere of Don't Worry Darling. But both Chris Pine's reps and Harry Styles himself quickly denied it. Chris Pine's team called it a ridiculous narrative, while Harry Styles joked at one of his concerts saying, "I just popped over to Venice to spit on Chris Pine." So if this didn't actually happen, then why has there been so much traction around it? The answer lies in something called a pseudo-event. Daniel Borstein described a pseudo-event as a fabricated or exaggerated occurrence designed to capture public attention and media coverage. The internet's obsession with Spitgate wasn't really about whether it happened. It was about the drama surrounding the entire production of Don't Worry Darling. In a way, Don't Worry Darling became more famous for its off-screen controversies from Olivia Wilde's relationship with Harry Styles to Florence Pugh's rumored dissatisfaction. The drama became the main event. This drama outshined Don't Worry Darling itself because the film's themes of regaining control and breaking power dynamics mirrored its messy production. Florence Pugh's acting was called the film's strongest asset, but even her brilliance couldn't compete with the off-screen drama. Critics pointed out how the chaos undermined the film's impact.
As already mentioned by Belle and her filming, we've already talked a little bit about pseudo-events, but essentially the definition of a pseudo-event defined by Borstein is a man-made reportable event designed to influence and alter our experience of the world.
Pseudo-events reinforce the idea that there's a gap between what a citizen needs to know and what they can know.
The demand for pseudo-event publication is inflated by social media and internet. As users are accustomed to seeing extensive information from multiple perspectives on demand, even minutes after an event occurs on platforms such as Instagram, online news sources, and Twitter.
The existence of these events and perpetual demand for them from the public artificially increase the authority of reporters as the subject and object of the news becomes intertwined. The media buzz and the hype around the film acts as basically a massive pseudo-event. So this includes both the interviews where Olivia Wilde talks about her intent of the film and also her reacting to questions after the film was released, as talked by both myself, Belle, and Charlotte. But also the spit moment, for example, with Chris Pine. Again, Belle got into that, but it was pretty crazy, along with the Miss Flo video that I mentioned in my conversation about Shia LaBeouf, and then, of course, just the drama with the cast as a whole and the film as a whole, and the pretty negative reception of the film's attempt at feminism. All of these reactions, all these moments in the press, and the way that they were filmed and spread throughout the media, that's one massive pseudo-event.
True.
Thanks for watching!
Okay, don't worry. Wait, I'm making second dick die.
I can't say it.
You got it.
Sure. Wait.
For Miss Flo.